If you say to me, "Oh, I think you're racist," I don't care that you think that about me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know myself. I know what I am. It doesn't matter to me at all.
Yeah.
So there is, I think, almost to survive, and especially to do kind of what we do, and to be in the public eye, and to be engaging in these issues all the time. There's almost this kind of like numbness you have to other people's opinions and feelings. And once again, that's something that in other spheres of life, I'm not sure that it's a positive thing all the time, but it does feel, it's almost a necessity these days, because there's so much coming at you all the time. And you could have a million people coming after you, calling you all kinds of names. And it's almost a survival mechanism. You have to get to a point where it's just like, I don't care what any of you people think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree exactly with what you said, because I get a lot of people who congratulate or thank me for my courage. And I have a similar response to you, which is that I think in one way it's a compliment. In another way, I feel sort of saddened that the bar for courage in society is so low that just saying what you believe to be true, or in some cases something that is objectively true, is now considered something that requires a unique and special amount of courage, when I think really it should be the default. So why do you think so few people have that level of courage? Because we're not talking about fighting in a war or running into a burning building and saving someone. We're talking about, okay, you might get called mean names, but you're not really putting yourself at some type of horrible physical risk. But it seems like now people's tolerance for risk, we saw this as well over the past 2.5 years.
Yeah.
The tolerance for risk is zero.
I think there's a lot that goes into it. Part of it is just living this comfortable Western life, where you can go about most of your life and on a daily basis and not really experience very much suffering and pain. And you start to see that as the exception more than the rule with life. Whereas previous generations, and even people now that live in other parts of the world, suffering, pain, deprivation, that's not an exception. That's just part of life. It's part of the deal. It's part of the bargain. We've been able to insulate ourselves from that. And so then it kind of makes you weak. And it also makes you feel like you're entitled to that kind of comfort all the time. And when anything comes along that threatens to take you out of that and make you a little bit uncomfortable, you recoil from it even more. And so I think that's part of it. People don't want, because we're so comfortable and weak, that even just disapproving comments, people posting frowny face emojis at you becomes, it's a real trial compared to what you experience on a daily basis. Then another part of it also is, I think it's also a matter of belief. And this really applies especially in the churches. So I get a question a lot about, with this film coming out, what is a woman? And one question I get a lot is, why aren't the churches talking about this more? Why are you out here doing this? Why aren't church leaders out addressing this issue of gender ideology and what it's doing to people? And which is a really good question, because they should be. I've been going to church every week for my whole life. I don't think I've ever heard this issue addressed from the pulpit in a really direct and substantial way. And maybe you can excuse that for like the first 20 years of my life, but the last 10 to 15, there's no excuse not to talk about it. They don't. Why is that? Well, there's the cowardice also, but then also I think it comes down to belief. I think a lot of the people that are leading these churches don't actually believe what we believe. They're pretending. They don't actually have this belief deep down within. And I think it goes beyond the church also. There are a lot of so-called conservative leaders who we look at them and say, why are they cowards? Why aren't they speaking out and defending our beliefs? Because they don't share the beliefs, actually. They don't. That's the dirty little secret. They don't actually believe a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
For me, I believe all the things that I'm saying. I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. So everything springs kind of naturally from there. I mean, gender ideology, I say that it's a clear and present danger to civilization. We are destroying a generation of kids. My whole spiel on this. I actually believe all that stuff. I really believe deep down that all that is true. And if you believe that something is that much of a danger to society and to your own kids, then what else are you going to do but speak up?
And I mean, you wrote a book on this, really. You wrote, literally called Church of Cowards. Excellent book. I read that all the way through, and that's something that also I found disappointing. And I also found it disappointing over the past 2.5 years. I mean, I saw there were places where, churches were shut down across the board, and then they opened casinos and strip clubs and all this and that. And I was primarily in the UK during this time, but I was thinking, wait, how come shouldn't the religious leaders be, not just church leaders, but all religious leaders? I mean, the way they just allowed bureaucrats to shut them down with no fight. I think it's one thing, something happening and you're attempting to resist it, and there's another thing when it's pressing against you and you just say, oh, okay, let's just go with that. Or, or even you're the one calling for it. And that just, it kind of hurt. Like, in my heart, I was just like, man, this is so disappointing.
Yeah.
With, what's the point of all this if no one's going to stand for anything? And as someone who travels a lot, so much of this stuff, oftentimes people say the world is going crazy and everyone's going nuts. And I mean, you somewhat explored this in your documentary, but I think when people say that, it's a very Western-centric perspective, because so many of the bad ideas and these mental pathogens that are spreading, it's primarily in the Western world. It's the US, it's Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, some parts of Western Europe. But actually the vast majority of people in the world, most of these billions of people, have the exact same view as we do, as the Maasai tribe that you spoke to in your documentary, What is a Woman? And that's actually the popular mainstream perspective. I mean, what percentage of people in this world actually believe that a woman can have a penis, or men can give birth, and so on? These are very, very fringe and minority views, which somehow have created this appearance that they are the most commonly held one in the world. And I feel like that happens on a lot of issues. So it can seem like common sense is completely gone and everyone's wrapped up in this psychosis. But I don't think that's true. I do think most people are normal, and most people know, sure, people have different opinions, but on some things are very self-evident. There are a few things more self-evident than males and females, not just in the human species, but across the board. And it just seems like everyone is just playing this game all the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Part of the problem is, these days, especially largely because of the media and the internet, we're all just connected all the time, and you're bombarded with all these messages. It's just message overload all the time. And then it creates this kind of amnesia where people have a very short memory. We have the memories of fruit flies now. And that's why something will happen, and it's like the biggest story in the world. And you feel like it changes everything. And then 30 minutes later, no one's talking about it anymore. And all that means is that we just you're just like stuck in this eternal now of just like, you're always wrapped up in each moment as it happens, and you forget about what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. And then it creates this kind of bubble where whatever is the reality for us right now in this exact moment, you think that, well, this is just the world. This is what it's always been. This is what it is everywhere. And you don't realize how insular it is and how new a lot of this stuff is and temporary. Because with the gender stuff in particular, yeah, you could go outside the Western bubble, as we did in the film, and discover that this stuff doesn't exist. Or if you had a time machine, you could go back, a
10
few
years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago, really. And to anywhere in the world, and it didn't exist. I mean, it's unique to this place where we live, but also to this particular time. And it's just something that people, I don't think, grapple with enough or even realize.
Yeah.